like to talk to great business leaders, experts, people who are influential. And today is no other than Jerry MacNamara. We'll get that right. Now, Jerry, let me tell you a little bit about Jerry before we get into this. He has run 5 companies in 5 different industries across business to business as well as business to consumer, and really is a person who does what he says, preaches what he teaches, and also helps business owners to implement these things. He's on a personal mission. Listen to this. He's on a personal mission to positively impact 5 million people in the next 5 years through better business. He's in the right place at the right time, talking to the right people. He helps CEOs and business owners just like you have more fun by creating what he calls a compelling business that really outperforms and still make it in time to be home for dinner with the kids, with your spouse, and have a good life. So when I read that, when I saw Jerry talk about that, I said, hey, we've got to get Jerry on the Business Success Show. Jerry, over to you. Tell us, what is it you do presently? I love your mission, by the way. And
Thank you.
what led you to that? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining. I mean, you are such an impressive guy yourself, so I'm humbled to be a part of your sphere of influence. And as I say, us good guys have to stay together and come together. It makes life way more fun. And so, you've captured it pretty well. I mean, I've run 5 different businesses, 5 different industries, B2B, B2C. And what I found is that it's all about business as widgets. How do we operationalize what it is that we're doing to be operationally excellent, create low stress, and outperform the marketplace? And so I've done that in franchise retailing, manufacturing, e-commerce. I sold that business, construction, and now business services. And so I've never been the technical leader in my business, which I think is interesting for some people. But what I find is as CEOs or as the senior leaders, the entrepreneur, the owner, you don't end up doing the doing, you lead the people. And so it's a very different seat that you have to be in the mindset. You have to have context, you have to see the business, but at the end of the day, it's all about putting the right resources on the right opportunities. And that's how you unlock success.
Fantastic. And for a little bit of background, over those 25 years you've been working with various companies, you've taken a franchise company from 5 million sales turnover to over 15 million in 18 months. You've
Yes.
transformed the manufacturing company. You've led a construction company from 7 million a year to 30 million dollars per year in sales revenue. So how do you do all of that in less than 3 years?
Yeah. So again, in the first company that I ran, which was the soccer retail company, that's when I got introduced to wrapping your lips around the fire hydrant and really doing the heavy lifting of business. And so, when I just look at it, people get really confused about what business is. In business, there's only 3 core functions of every business at the end of the day.
Hmm.
You have to market your business, you have to convert sales,
Yeah.
and then you have to deliver profitably the service or product that you have sold to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so when I am looking to help scale businesses, I'm looking at those 3 things. And what is it that we can do to create really an imbalance of those 3 things? Because that's how you grow. And so if I look and say, hey, I can put 60 widgets through my system, and currently I'm at 30, then I know that I have a marketing problem or a sales problem. Either people don't know about me, or the people who do know about me haven't been produced with the right offer to convert into a sale, so that I can then take that operational capacity and turn it from time and space into dollars. And so every business I walk into, I'm looking at marketing, sales, operations. And I tell CEOs that I work with, we are going to try and break your business in one of those 3 areas. And that's surprising. The look on the face that you just gave is exactly the look on the face that every CEO gives me and says, what do you mean you're going to break my business? And I said, well, if you want to outperform the marketplace, then we have to do something that's dynamic and different and better than what everyone else is doing. And so I just look at those three things to start. But, for me, we talk about, the audience and what they're thinking about. I think about my CEOs that I serve. And really, if you have success without fulfillment, it's the greatest ripoff in life, right? And so I had a CEO that I've worked with in the past, and he called me. It was actually earlier this year. I think it was February, March. And he said, Jerry, I just had the greatest year in my life. I am a multi-millionaire. I own lots of real estate, and I am so miserable. And I said, well, I think what you've missed is you've been chasing the idea that it's money that you're after, and it's not money. It's the 3 F's, right? Finances create freedom to create fulfillment.
Right.
Right.
I love that. Say that again. So let me just make sure our audience heard what you said. You've worked with some people who have created great businesses, become financially very successful,
yes,
however, felt empty after a period of time or unfulfilled. Why? And you've broken it down into 3 F's as to why that happens. Because some people chase the money, sometimes burn out, sometimes succeed, and they think, what was all this about? But go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah. So as I reminded the CEO that it's not about the financial side. The financial side just simply creates the freedom to create fulfillment. And the only way that you can create fulfillment, Mac, is if you have alignment of what your personal vision is for the world. What's the impact that I'm going to go make?
Yeah. My
values. And so how am I going to make sure that I stay on the road? What are my guardrails so that I don't get that pit in my stomach where I go like, that's not the person I aspire to be. And then my actions. And when you create that alignment of vision, values, and actions, you stand up a little bit taller. You feel good. You bring your energy, right? And so that's really the piece that I find, people miss. They never quite define what is it that fulfillment looks for me, because they just keep on serving the business. We've been sold a bill of goods that you have to grind, and it has to be stressful, and it has to be lonely as an entrepreneur. And my answer to that is, it doesn't have to be that way. You just have to choose a different path. You have to be conscious and intentional about your choices to create the life that you want to go lead. And then you build the business around that. And so it's super important, because we just have been told like, oh, well, it's always going to be stressful. It's always going to be a grind. It's always going to be all these things. And again, if you have, no, it doesn't have to be. And if you have success without fulfillment, again, it's the greatest ripoff in life. And I've seen far too many CEOs make millions of dollars and look up and say, I don't get it. And I just get them retrenched into, well, what's the impact that we're trying to make in the world? And how are we going to do that? What's the operating system of you and your business? And those things should be aligned. And then suddenly it's fun to go to work again. It's fun to go make the impact.
Absolutely. So the 3 F's being, get the financials right, gives you the freedom, gives you the fulfillment. Not only that, align these things. Align your vision with your values, with the actions you're going to take every day towards that. And I think you're right. Many people get it wrong. And why do you think that happens? They wake up one day, I want to start a business, they grow, and they forget them. It happened to me. I mean, many years ago, I started a little computer company, started to grow it, ended up working 90 hours a week, 100 hours a week, nearly burnt myself out, lost a lot of money. But at some point, I stopped, and I had a rude awakening. And that rude awakening was, why am I doing this? In the end, I thought, I'm not enjoying this. I sold that company. And I started investing heavily in real estate property to do exactly what you said. What I was looking for was financial freedom, so I can have my time back, spend time with my family. And I was able to do that, created millions and multi-millions, all that kind of stuff. But I totally agree. Without knowing who you are, knowing what your values are, what is it you really want, what's important to you, you're going to take the wrong actions, which is going to lead you to somewhere you don't want to go. So I love what you've just said there. Now, Jerry, you don't only teach this and preach this, but you also live it. Can you
Yes.
give everyone an example of what you did not too long ago with your family and off you go, adventure?
Well, so, one of our core values as a family, my wife is very adventurous. We love to travel. And so last October, we sold our house here in Jacksonville, Florida, and we loaded up into our Ford Explorer with a topper. And we went and traveled the country for 8 months. And so we visited 53 different places across the country. Some people thought we were a little crazy for doing that during a pandemic. For us, it was the right decision. It was the right opportunity. Our kids were in virtual school. And so the ability to be on the road. My wife continued to run she's a VP for a pharmaceutical company. She worked remotely anyway. And so I continued to work and serve my CEOs. Rachel actually got a promotion when we were out on the road. And so it's a good example that if you, again, the clearer you are on where you want to go, you can take actions to go get there. And so that was the trip of a lifetime, Mac. I mean, I don't know that I'll ever have a chance to freeze time in an environment where remote work is happening. The kids are out of school and doing virtual learning. We had an amazing time, spent weeks in Denver, plowing down hills. We went to Hawaii and watched the North Shore and the professional surfing contest, went to Puerto Rico and watched the sunrise every day. It was an amazing adventure. And so people said, "Oh, I wish I could do that." Yeah. And my answer to all of them was, you can, you just haven't decided to take action to go do it.
Yeah.
And so there, for some people, there is a quote unquote price to pay, right? Of being able to do that. But at the end of the day, if you really want to go do it, don't sit and be miserable right now. It's one of those things that alignment is just so critical. And I think as we look at, right now, I'm talking a lot about companies and the changes that we're seeing, at least here in the US, right? In August, we saw 4.3 million people voluntarily leave their jobs. Wow. That was backed up in September with another 4.4 million people voluntarily leaving their jobs. And I backed that up with the Edelman report that came out and said 61% of people are now looking for purpose in their work. And I overlay that with 63% of people in the predictive index are looking and saying they're expecting to leave their job in the next 12 months due to bad leadership, bad management. And so, I think we're at this tipping point right now. I keep on telling my CEOs, you shouldn't be in the mindset of building a company. You should be building a community on a mission, which means you have alignment of the impact you're going to go make, which means you have to be clear about where it is that we're going to go, right? Most people start a business and never think about like, oh, what am I going to do with this business? What's the actual impact? What's the problem that we solve? And they never get the traction, and they never implement values to say, here's what we stand for in this business. Here's what we celebrate. Here's what we don't tolerate. And when you have values disalignment, my experience is people go home and they feel really shitty about the work that they did that day, right? And they kind of shrug their shoulders. And so, I look and say, this is not anyone's problem other than leadership's problem. We have to make sure that we are creating a compelling place for our people to show up, because we are just simply stewards of all the resources, our customers, our vendors, our suppliers, our employees. We're just the galvanizing force to go do good. And the output of that is actual financial freedom.
Yeah.
You do those things and you do them really well, the market always rewards people who do great things.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree totally. Thanks for sharing that, Jerry. Jerry, you've said several times now, you used the word a compelling company, a compelling business. What do you mean by compelling? What does that mean?
Yes, great question. So, I look at it as they're very clear on their path to the impact that they're going to make, because the foundation of every company, if there's three core functions of a business, marketing, sales, and operations, there's the foundation, which is vision, values, and resources.
Yeah.
So if we're not clear on our vision or our values, it's hard to be a compelling company of I'm going on this adventure and I know where I'm going and I can feel really good about it. And so how do you know if you have a compelling company? When your employees say, I can't believe I get paid to come to work and to do this work and to make this impact, because I go home and I feel amazing for the work that I've been doing and that I get paid to do this. This is just the luckiest opportunity that I have on the face of the earth. If you get that piece of it right, Mac,
Yeah.
man, you can move mountains. I mean, I look back, the joke is I ran a construction company and I am the least handy person you will ever meet. There's a reason that I've spent 25 years behind my keyboard. And as I told the owner who brought me in to run the company, I said, I have the softest hands in construction. The only thing I will hammer is my keyboard, but I guarantee you that no one will run your company better. And so when you do that, and for me, construction is historically a very blue collar business, and I would say we're taking a white collar approach to a very blue collar business. Our first value was love your people and treat them as whole people. And so you change that dynamic of how people feel showing up to work, and you unlock the next level of success, because people will run through walls for you when they feel, I call it the 3 C's. Do they feel challenged as an employee? Your employees should feel challenged. They should come and be doing hard, meaningful work.
Yeah.
The second is, do they feel cared for? Does their leader actually give a shit about them? If you don't know who the spouse is and their kids, you're missing the mark on making sure that that person is never going to leave you. Because when people feel cared for, they don't leave, right? And then the last C is comfort. They should be comfortable that they have the tools and resources to go tackle the challenges that they're being asked to go perform. And when you get that piece of it right, you're off to the races in creating that virtuous cycle and that flywheel of just incredible success that just keeps on paying more and more dividends, more and more dividends. And so, that's my challenge to entrepreneurs. If you want the very best that entrepreneurship has to offer, then you have to create a company that is very different than the rest of the marketplace. You have to love your people harder than anyone else. You have to create purpose for them, and you have to care for them, and then just watch the magic happen. Because I ran a construction company that made the Inc. 500 multiple times. I don't even hang pictures in my own house, Mac.
Wow, that's awesome. Look, do you know one thing I love about what you're saying? Well, not one thing, multiple things. Very early on in our conversation, you talked about how does the CEO, the business owner, how do they become fulfilled, right? And you broke that down. But now what you're saying is it's not just about the CEO's fulfillment, but how do we create an organization, a company, where the individuals working within the company, the talent, the team, look forward to come to work. They are fulfilled. They're getting home, not thinking, I don't want to go back there, but looking forward to come back in tomorrow. Why?
That's
because
right.
the leader cares, the organization cares, and they are challenged. I love that. Absolutely amazing. Is that what you mean by the leadership gap? Is that what you mean, or what is that?
Well, so I think when I look at the leadership gap, I think every business has the potential to be great. I think every business has the potential to be great. And what I find is the leader holds the key to whether it becomes great or not. We either get in the way or we accelerate the opportunity. And so I think there's 3 very distinct hats that a leader wears. The first one is the leader is individual. I have to own my own view on the world, meaning I have to get really clear about what my personal vision is and how that aligns with the company. I have to be really clear about my personal values and how that aligns with the company. I have to figure out who's on my board of directors, because guess what? Running a business is hard. I've run multiple businesses. It's flipping hard. Yeah. And so when shit gets wrong, you got to know who you're picking up the phone. I'm calling Mac. Hey, Mac, I have this problem. Like, what do you think? Right. And so, if board of directors is good enough for Fortune 500, it's good enough for you. You should have it too. And so taking people through that process of really getting very clear, very, very clear of how will I show up for my people? How do I become a predictable leader day in and day out? Because when you are predictable, then we can allocate the right resources on the right opportunities with you without you actually being in the building. What happens is when we don't get really clear about how we're going to show up as an individual, and we let our own mess of a lack of clarity show up, then the decision that I made yesterday is different than the decision that I made today because I'm not clear. And my people get confused, they get frustrated, and it turns into a lack of performance. Right. And so that's not their fault, it's my fault. And so making sure that we are 100% clear about who we are as a leader is the first hat that we wear. The second is the technical side, the things that you do day in and day out. It is having crucial conversations, create clarity, the process and systems that go into it. It's just the nature of the day-to-day of leading, right? And so there's a whole set of technical skills that you need to deploy to be able to be a really good leader. And then the third hat you wear is the strategic hat. It's really looking and saying, who are my competitors in the marketplace? How do we fit in? What specifically is our problem that we're solving? Who are we solving for very specifically? And you are the one that is really allocating the right resources on the right opportunities. That's your responsibility as the leader. And then we have to communicate that, right? And so you go back into the technical mode of leading. And so that, to me, those three pieces is really the leadership gap, that we do not do a good job of defining for ourselves who we are and how we're going to show up. We don't build the skills that we need to lead, because think about this. Think about the people who get promoted into leadership roles. Mm-hmm. They were really good at doing the doing. That doesn't mean that they're great at leading people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? I mean, Michael Jordan in the US, he was the greatest basketball player of all time. He was a horrible coach.
Yeah.
He was a horrible coach. And so just a classic example of, the people who get promoted are great at the technical side of their position. Doesn't mean that they understand the strategic demands. Mm-hmm. And they haven't necessarily built the technical pieces of how do we communicate? How do I resolve conflict? How do I have crucial conversations? How am I doing one-on-ones? How am I holding meetings? All of these things that have nothing to do with why you got promoted. Right. And so that's the gap that gets created, which is I've promoted someone into a position of leadership, but I haven't prepared them to be successful. That is the gap. And so depending on where you are, if that's the solopreneur, fantastic. I've been the solopreneur, mm-hmm. but you have to have a very clear picture of who you are, how you're going to show up, not only for yourself, your employees, your customers, all the people that you serve. Then you have to build the skills. Do an honest assessment of I suck at that. I need to build that skill, and then go build it. And then the third is, strategic. If it's just you have those conversations with yourself at 5 a.m. in the morning as you're charting your path and your day forward. Once you start building an organization and the team around you, then it gets a little bit more complex. But, that's what I see as the leadership gap. I am amazed. I don't know what your experience is, but I am amazed at how many companies out there don't do strategic planning.
Oh, yeah.
Don't bring their people together to say, what is the plan? What's the impact? How are we going to allocate resources? What resources do we have to allocate? Yeah. And to me, I don't know how you can rally your people and direct their work without actually bringing people together to do that. I mean, if you really look, if an organization of 50 people, roughly in a 13-week sprint, because I look at strategic planning should be done quarterly.
Sprints.
You're planning for 26,000 hours of output.
Yeah.
And some companies leave that to chance, and they fret over buying a printer that's $500. And I think, just imagine, we're leaving all of our output, all of our impact to chance, and yet we'll fret over a small purchase in the office. And then you put it to them that way, and you say, are you going to leave 26,000 hours to chance? It's like, holy shit, no, I shouldn't do that, right? That's crazy. And so I'm a big believer in strategic planning, and I believe it should be done every 90 days because the world changes too fast. When I had my first business, we did a 5-year lookout, and 25 years ago, you could do that. You cannot do that today. I can have a year lookout, right? And I'm saying that's a good, healthy thing. As we come into 2022, you should look out onto 2022 and say, here's what I want to be at the end. But at the end of the day, you drive results by doing 90-day sprints worth of work. And I'm a big believer in that. I don't know what your experience is.
Yeah, I totally agree. As a business coach, and that's what I was going to bring up next. As a business coach, there are some companies who come to us and they need help. They want to improve. But sometimes some of that business owner doesn't really want to change. And they are not coachable. They're not listening. They say yes. But have you ever had the experience, Jerry, that, it's worked for so many companies. You've proven it. You're showing them, paving the way and painting the picture, and they argue with you as to why it will not work in this organization. Have you ever had that situation?
So imagine this, Mac. I have been the leader inside 5 different businesses in 5 different industries. And so when someone says to me, yeah, but you don't know my industry, I just say just look at my track record, right? I mean, business is widgets. I have a track record to prove it. We've been on the Franchise 500, the Inc. 500, all of the places you'd want to, clip out the newspaper article and send off to your mother. Here's what I have learned over time is I don't chase entrepreneurs. And the reason for that is, and I had someone earlier this year, we were talking about expectations. And this person who had a successful business was looking to get to the next level of success. And they said, well, I really need you to motivate me. And I said, that is not what I do. I'll provide inspiration. I'm your high five guy. I'm a high energy, high motor. But at the end of the day, you have to bring the motivation, because if you don't have motivation to change, then we're doomed. You don't need a guy like me. And so I don't chase entrepreneurs, because if they don't believe that they need me, then it's not going to work. They're not going to be open to change. I need them to be in a place either of hope. They are so driven by the picture that they see out there and they want to achieve it, but they realize, man, that person can help me get there faster. Or they're in enough pain where it's not going well enough for them, where they say, that guy probably can teach me a thing or two to get me to the next level of success. And so my answer is, I don't chase entrepreneurs, because if you're not motivated to do the work and to change, then I'd rather spend my time with someone else who is already open to all of those things.
And one good thing you said about they've got to be motivated themselves, but your whole process actually goes beyond that motivation by you helping them to see the vision, actually put it together, make it tangible. This is where we're going. This is what it's going to look like. This is where the organization is going. That becomes in itself inspiration.
Yes.
Inspiration will last for weeks and months in each sprint. Whereas motivation, great people who motivate, that may last a few hours, may last a day. Then what? Tomorrow you've got to do it? No. So I love your whole ethos around that. If they feel they want to be motivated, you're not the guy. You don't chase entrepreneurs. They're ready to go. You can show them the way.
I say it all the time. Someone has to be in enough pain to want to change.
Yeah.
And the person who thinks they know it all, that's not someone that I can help. That's great. I'm gonna let you get to a place where you get stuck, and then maybe you'll call me. And I'm A-okay with that. I've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs over time. People call up and say, I have this problem, I have this thing. Great. If you need more help, let me know. I'd be happy to have an engagement with you. And you don't hear from them. And I'm A-okay with that. And some people, think that's crazy. But for me, making sure that, again, and this is selfish of me, if I can't make a huge impact in your business, Mac, I'm not interested in doing it. And like you, I've reached a certain point in my career. I look for 3 things, right? One is, are they good, nice people? Because I've worked with assholes before. I do not have to do that again in my life.
Right? I hear you.
The second thing is, are they interesting enough that I want to have dinner with them? Right? Does this person have some intellectual interest? I'm like, damn, that person's nice. They're interesting. And then the third piece of it is, do they have the potential to be great in whatever it is that they're doing, right? Because for me, it's just widgets. I don't necessarily feel compelled by any of the businesses that I advise.
Yeah.
But I'm compelled by the process of getting people to better places, to improve the world, because I look at it and just say, I don't know, it never occurred to me that people didn't like going to work, right? There's an author here, one of my favorite authors, Adam Grant, and he has a podcast, a TED podcast, and his whole thing is to make work suck less. I just thought, what a strange way to present that. And I guess that's the fear side of motivation.
Yeah.
My whole thing is like, let's make the world a better place, because I've never met someone, I don't know if you have, but I've never met someone who has gone to work and said, I really want to suck today.
No, I think
no one does that. And yet there's so many people that go to work that either hate their work or they're not very good at it. And that's because, again, there's this leadership gap, and that it's up to us to bring those people in, to shepherd them through, to be a good steward of resources. And my goal is that every person that is in our care, of every company that I work with, they go home, and when their spouse says, did you have a good day? They say, I had a great day. I contributed to the company's goals. I know exactly what I needed to do to knock it out of the park. I feel cared for. I love the people that I work with. The impact that we're making is amazing. That person is going to be a better husband. They're going to be a better father. They're going to be a better son, a better friend. And I just couldn't imagine a time or a place where people would show up home every day thinking, or getting out of bed and thinking, I've got to go to work today. I mean, but my answer to them, and I gave a presentation last week to one of my companies, and I said to them, if you're not inspired by the work that you're doing, you have permission to leave. Wow. And the owner was in the room, and he looked at me like, what? Where are you going with this one? And I said, if you're not inspired, if you don't want to be here every day, that's okay. We want you to go find another place where you are inspired, where you identify with the mission of the company. Go do that, because you only live once. Your family deserves that of you. You deserve that of you. And guess what? We will find someone else who's inspired by the mission that we're on. We will invite them along, and they will show up here every day inspired by the work that we do. And that's the thing that happens. People are scared shitless to have that conversation, to say, it's okay that you want to go somewhere else. Let me bring someone in who is totally aligned, because the business will be able to move much faster. Absolutely. And will be able to do way more things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone listening in, watching in, this is Jerry MacNamara, and your wisdom is just off the chart in terms of leadership, in terms of companies, in terms of creating great environments, work culture. How did you get to that place? How did you went in, you didn't know nothing about construction, took that company from A to B, they did loads. But what is it about you, Jerry, that can think that way, that can see that without even knowing the product, knowing the service, knowing the widgets, but can still pump it through? What is it about you as a person rather than your process?
Yeah. So I look at it as, the business acceleration model, which is the foundation, the functions, and then the flywheel. The last ring of every flywheel is learning. And so I am a high learner. Right. And I'm a big believer that ego is the enemy. Another favorite author of mine is Ryan Holiday. Great. And so I don't think I'm better than anyone else. I don't believe in levels inside organizations. We all just contribute differently. And so I am able to raise my hand and say, Mac, I'm not sure. I don't know that. And I'll give you an example. So I was brought in to run the construction company, sitting with one of our suppliers, who is our roofing suppliers. We were buying $1 million worth of shingles from this supplier. And I'm sitting with the regional director and the store operator. And they're talking about hips and ridges and valleys and all of these things. And I have no idea what they're talking about. And I said, do you have a roof diagram? Because I don't know what you're talking about. And I could see the look of panic on their face, where they thought, this is the guy that buys $1 million worth of shingles from us. We are in trouble. This company is in trouble. They were very happy over time. But if my ego was going to get in the way, I would have sat there silently, not knowing a thing about what they were talking about and just negotiating on price. But I think in order to be really great, you do have to have a level of context. And so you have to be learning. You have to constantly be learning. I'm amazed. There's some ridiculous stat that after people leave college, that a very low percentage of people read another book in their life.
Yeah.
And I just think, how do you continue to solve today's problems with 10 years ago thinking, 15 years ago thinking, 20 years ago thinking, depending on how old you are?
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ago, I read 63 books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I wouldn't be out in the front of being able to be a thought leader and truly being able to help my people without constantly moving my knowledge forward. And so if someone held me down and they were going to, whitewash my face in snow, and they said, what's the one thing? What's the one thing? I would tell them, you have to be intellectually curious. It is the one thing that allows you to continue to be relevant no matter where you are or what you're doing. And if you have that learning mindset, companies who have learning cultures solve problems differently. They just do. They're more innovative. They are more just creative in their process and their approach. And so I'm always looking to hire high learners.
Awesome. That's a great. Constantly learn. Don't stop learning. So, Jerry, it's been great speaking with you. And as we come towards wrapping up in a moment, those people who want to get a hold of you, or they want to find out some more information, or want to connect with you, what is the best method, the best way to do that?
Yeah, so the best way is just to go to provenchaos.com. That's my website. One thing that we do today, this is being recorded on a Thursday. So every Thursday we offer office hours from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And it's for senior leaders to be able to come together and to say, you know what, I'm having this challenge inside of my business. Has anyone ever seen it? And you have other really smart people that can help you do this, because I'm a big believer that we are always better together. And so that's a service that I do. It's a free opportunity to just come together once a week. It's for an hour, and it's a lot of fun every week.
So that's 2 p.m. till 3 p.m. Eastern time, right?
Eastern time, that's correct.
Florida, New York time. So that is 5 hours. That's UK. That's I think that's 7 p.m. UK.
Yep.
It's for those of you who are in Singapore and Malaysia. That's 2 a.m. in the morning, but we you could always jump in. This Jerry's a great guy. For those of you in Europe, okay, it's 1 hour difference, about 8 p.m. for you. So yeah, check him out. This is Jerry MacNamara. Great talk, great conversation we've just had. Jerry, I want to say thank you. And
thank you back. I appreciate you, man.
You're most welcome. And remember, check out Jerry at provenchaos.com. And remember to like this podcast, share this podcast, or subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And just like it, share it, make a comment. Let us know what you liked about it, what you want more of, and we'll be there to help you. So thank you for tuning in and listening to the Business Success Show with me, Mac Attram, and Jerry MacNamara. Jerry, until we speak again, God bless, take care, much love, and continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Mac.